Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Happy Monday. Thank you so much for joining us again. My name is Felicia Sprague. I'm an office manager slash regional manager here in Toronto.
Hi, everybody. I am Dr. Aisling Whitaker, a dentist and clinic owner in Toronto, and we are the co-founders of Dental Hive. We will be recording today's session as many of our attendees join us on YouTube afterwards. So if you miss anything, that's where it'll be. And please introduce yourself in the chat and say where you're logging in from.
So today we will be discussing team retention and how your organization can keep your employees feeling engaged, committed, and most importantly, feeling appreciated.
We know that running a clinic is really hard. Felicia and I run a few clinics together. And the biggest thing that we have found to be one of our successes is getting our employees engaged, having a lot of long-term employees so that when we invest in their education, we can really see it through at our clinics over many years. And that's one of the biggest things that we focus on at our clinics is focusing on our team, listening to their feedback and getting their buy-in and really trying to instill a love of dentistry with them.
Yeah, absolutely. And this like having team retention is so important because hiring is such a hard venture right now out there. Hiring, always onboarding, training, it takes up so much time. So putting the effort in to really make your team feel committed and valued is really important. So there are different ways to engage your team and to make them feel really motivated and valued. But before we talk about them, let me just preface this by saying these are not to replace paying your team, a fair competitive wage, staff benefits. It's not to replace annual reviews or paid sick days, anything like that. To us, those should sort of be a given when we're talking about appreciation and commitment. So yeah, now let's get into some ways that really won't cost you anything but your time. So my first sort of way to kind of check in with the team is through the implementation of monthly surveys. So I'm going to share one with you right now so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. Mm,
So while Felicia's bringing that up, we currently use like a Google form to send out surveys, or sometimes we'll also use SurveyMonkey to send out digital surveys. And we have also shared these surveys, the verbiage for these inside of Dental Hive, so you can download these for free if you wish.
Okay, can everybody see?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Just my screen is being funky right now. Okay, there we go. Okay, so monthly surveys. If you followed us for a while, you know that we think surveys and feedback are really important. If you're new to surveys, I would suggest starting with this one. It's the employee preferences survey. So this is great for, new team members, your team members that you have right now. Just sort of kind of gives you some insight into, what is their professional love language? How do they learn? How do they prefer to receive feedback or be recognized for their work, communication style. And also you kind of get like little tidbits about them, like what their favorite little treat is or what their Starbucks coffee order is. Do they prefer sweet or savory? And this is all stuff that we're going to use later on. So it's really helpful information. Other surveys could be wellness surveys. So you can find some of these surveys in our app, but we have a wellness survey. So that's just checking in with your team on their mental health, their job load, just anything, that they might be sort of like not sure about, like training wise. And then you can use that information to sort of help them to kind of help them grow at the office. You could also do kind of like appreciation or check-in surveys where you're asking your team about their most recent accomplishments. We kind of like to ask them to acknowledge a coworker that has done something really, kind or cool in the last couple of months. And then that way we're just kind of inquiring about things that we don't always see because me and Ashling aren't in the office every single day. So we don't see everything that goes on. We don't see the amazing stuff that our team does on the day to day. So it's really important for us to sort of inquire and ask around about, what's going on.
Let's loop back to this employee preferences survey. So when we first started opening our clinics, Felicia and I would do a lot of this sort of on the fly, and we create a little profile of each employee. And then we realized we need this. We now have a lot of employees between multiple offices. So we like to have this front and center and keep all of these employee preferences surveys kind of together, easy access, so that we can surprise them with little treats along the way, so that we can tailor their training and things like that. I find that sometimes we can think that we're showing appreciation to employees, and it may not be the type of appreciation that they are picking up. So, obviously, basic appreciation, saying thank you to everybody at the end of the day, and seeming engaged when you're having a conversation with them, and that all goes as standard. But for example, I think a lot of dentists and office managers feel like it may be financial only. And actually, we realize like our team really love being invested in and going to training. They really love like little bits of appreciation along the way. Or just even, with Felicia is like, Felicia and I like someone to say, hey, that was a great, you did great there, because we're the managerial staff. We're not
Don't get
necessarily.
that often.
Yeah, exactly. Like it can be an underappreciated role. So I think for the dentist to remember their managers too, and vice versa, um, the other side of things is, we have different people in our team who do training. It isn't always Felicia and I. We have delegated this pretty successfully along the way. But we have videos recording all of our training and things like that. But for some employees, the videos are not going to cut it. They need that hands-on, they need to practice. And so if you're finding that a particular employee is not picking up what you're giving out, I think it's important to really look at what is their learning style, and go from there, because it could just be that you are not approaching it in the way that it needs to be approached with that person. Um, so, like Felicia said, if you don't have something like this already, this is the time to just get it with all of your staff and get them to fill it out and require that they have it back to you by the end of the week. Look at it with your manager, look at it with your dentist, and look at, okay, this is pretty interesting. There is a variety of ways that our team think, and variety of ways that they learn.
All right, I saw that you shared that. That was perfect. So yeah, and some of the information that we gain from these surveys, we can use them in other appreciation tactics. So this sort of leads me to check-in emails. So let me just share my example of a check-in email. Okay, so check-ins are sort of, they're different than reviews in a few ways. So reviews, we normally do them sort of on an annual basis. They contain constructive feedback as well as acknowledgement for their duties and accomplishments, obviously. Check-ins are a little bit more informal and they can be done more regularly. So I like to sort of do them every other month, following up on a survey. So I'll do a survey and then use that information to do like a positive email. So this is sort of what our emails look like. This is a chance for us to sort of give them a virtual check-in. So just let them know, like, you've made such a positive impact at our office, and we want to share some of that positive feedback with you. So again, like these check-ins are going to be all positive, so no constructive feedback. And it's a nice way for us to acknowledge our employees for their hard work and accomplishments they provided on their recent surveys. So, some of our team will be like, oh, I'm doing this course, or, I just did this. And it could be, professional, personal, anything. But it's really nice for us to be like, hey, that's awesome. Like, you should be really proud of yourself, because they should be. And it's stuff that, we might not kind of see day to day. We also ask them to shout out, a coworker, because this is where we can put this information as well. And we find that that really helps with bonding and team interaction, making them feel really together as a team, because we're saying, this person said this about you. Like this is really nice. They notice that, you work really hard and scary, or that you always have their room set up. Like little things every day that might be part of your duties, but you're like, someone else is noticing how hard you're working. And that's really important to a lot of our employees. Like they really appreciate stuff like that. We'll also include, little things from all of our managers, like just like, oh, like I saw you worked really hard on those Google Sheets last week. Like that's awesome. Like really proud of you. So just like again, like doesn't have to be long. It could be a couple sentences. It doesn't take that much time when, you're using a template or something like that. We'll also give patient reviews to our hygiene team or assistants, especially when a patient calls them out on like a Google review or it says like a nice email, like, hey, I really enjoyed seeing this person today. They did a great job in my cleaning. Like we'll actually put that in the email because it's nice for them to go back and look on later, maybe when they're kind of feeling a little bit like maybe stuck in their job or something like that, they can see they're really making an impact at work and with their patients. And we just think that it's a really nice way to say, like, thank you for your hard work these last couple months. Again, it's free and such an easy way to express gratitude.
I love I love the appreciation side, but I also like people saying, what they're proud of. So Felicia mentioned,
Yeah.
they'll say something that they did because it's pretty easy to lose touch with this number of employees. Like when you started out and you're small in your office of two, three people, you know exactly what's happening at their weekends and exciting things that they've got going on. But even, for me, like I'll shout out in our internal chat group, I did this course at the weekend and I'm doing this treatment now and I'm super excited about it. Or, the hygienists, I want them to shout out if they do a CE program, even if it's a webinar or whatever, because it shows the whole team that we are all following those core values of continuing education and self-improvement. And it really helps keep the positive vibes going.
Yeah, absolutely. And like we said, like, this could be done on your timeline. It's not something that you need to do like every so often. It's a really informal way to just be like, hey, you're doing a really great job. And we get awesome feedback from our team just saying, I really appreciate this. I'm glad that you noticed this because I was working really hard at that. And some people, like, they don't fill out that part where they're shouting themselves out. So they're embarrassed or, they don't see their accomplishments like we see them sometimes. So it's really nice and really makes them feel more connected again as a team because we're having them shout each other out and then with us as managers and owners.
Absolutely.
So now we get into stuff that might cost a little bit more, but again, really important for them just feeling valued and feeling really seen and everything like that. So one thing, I went to I think Ashling a couple of years ago, and I was just like, listen, I would really love to have a really small employee budget. Like I just want a little bit of money every year per employee that I could get like little treats for them or just different things. And she was like, yes, absolutely. Like, this is a great idea. Instead of me always going to her and be like, can I have money for this? Can I like give this person, send this person something? So this really helps. You get a certain range per year for each employee, put it in a spreadsheet. You can use it for role appreciation days, like hygienist week, assistant appreciation week, reception. Obviously, there's a week or a day for everyone. So it's really nice to kind of allocate a little bit of the budget for that. Employee Appreciation Day. There's nothing really around this time of year. So we like to go back to that employee preferences survey and like get them a little treat that they like. So like, they'll put, I really like Kit Kat bars. We'll buy them like a 4 pack of Kit Kat bars, give them a nice card with it, just saying, hey, we really appreciate all your hard work lately. And our staff love it. Like it's something so small and not too expensive a lot of the time because, we have a small budget. We're spreading it out throughout these days, but it's just really nice to, get a handwritten card and get a small little something saying we see you, we appreciate how hard you're working, and words of affirmation, acts of service, stuff like that. It really goes a long way with a lot of people.
Another thing that we've implemented on a buying gifts perspective is having gifts for specific milestones that the team member would have at the office. So after a certain number of years or so on. So kind of sitting down the office manager and the dentist together to really plan that out, so that something doesn't come along and then get missed, and that you don't accidentally do one thing for one person and forget about it for another person because the days go by and they go by fast and all of a sudden somebody's at 5 years and you're like, oh my God, like I missed that. So having a plan for loyalty, I think is really important. We also obviously do, a holiday dinner, and we do a number of things like that along the year. So having a budget for that, either a budget per person, and having, are you giving a bonus, or are you giving a gift card, or like what are you giving and what does that look like, and really making a plan, because when the year rolls around to the next year, it can be easy to forget what you did the previous year. And it is a disaster if you are seen to appreciate people less the following year. I hear about that all the time at clinics where they say, oh, I got a gift card this year, and then the next year that I didn't get anything. So have a plan for what you plan to do long term, and what that looks like, whether you are making the decision to, you know, gift everybody evenly, whether you're making the decision to do it based on how many years they've been with you or whatever, but have a plan, stick to it, make it clean cut. And, you know, employees really appreciate that. Some employees
Absolutely.
appreciate more just they get together, and other people might appreciate more receiving something. So I think there needs to be a bit of a balance there. And kind of, I think the thank you as well, like the thank you card, as Felicia said, it goes a long way.
Absolutely.
So then let's roll into other ways to retain your employees. So one of my biggest values as myself as a person is continuing my education over time. I am absolutely a self-proclaimed CE junkie. All the CE, love it, love it, love it. I love to attend CE. I love to teach CE. I'm all about it. And I really believe it has kept me really enjoying dentistry over the years. And I do change it up. Like I've gone pretty much all orthodontic these days. And I really enjoy that, and I'm diving deep in that. And I often think that educating the team falls short at a clinic.
Mhm.
When I was opening my own clinics, I made the decision that I wanted to be the type of clinic that is bettering the education of everybody, not just myself. So, for example, I will often bring team members who are, um, you know, maybe their role defines it that this education will really benefit their role. So I'll bring some of my ortho team to ortho courses, or I'll bring my hygiene team to hygiene courses. And we will have a educational plan for every team member. So when we onboard a hygienist, we know that we want to certify them within laser within a year. We know we want them to know how to do orthodontic procedures within the year. And we'll have that educational professional development plan laid out so that when it comes to their 6 month review or their annual review, Felicia's able to look at that to be like, okay, where are we at with your education? What's next? Like, we'll layer it one layer after the next, and we'll have a plan every year. Um, I think oftentimes, unfortunately, reception team and assisting team can get forgotten because there's not a lot of very clearly defined education out there for them. So I think it's important to also look at those teams and have a plan for how you would want to build up their education over time, whether it is going through treatment coordinator programs. Maybe you're looking at growing one person into an office manager, because Felicia really believes that the office manager role is grown as opposed to hired. And I do that believe that to be true, because I think somebody who's been in your office for many years really knows how you work. So layering that education over time is very important. And sometimes thinking outside the box is something that may not be dental. So, for example, Felicia's taken women in leadership programs, really to think about how do people work and how do
Mhm.
teams work, as opposed to something just like insurance verifications. Um, when somebody does begin at our office, we do have a multi-week onboarding plan for their education that is in Dental Hive, like having a kind of a very solid 3 week plan, and then reviewing and rehearsing it again over the next 3 weeks. So we know at that 6 week mark whether they're a good fit for our office. It's hard to tell unless you've done the onboarding. So it is worth investing that time. Outside of that, we actually close down our office 2 or 3 full one
Yeah.
days per year. So those 1 day events are very purposeful. It could be to catch the whole team up on, particular systems and protocols, but it can also be to catch the whole team up on what we want as a business for patient communication, what we want for patient experience, and really going through that in detail, because you cannot assume anything unless you have purposefully dedicated the time and sat down with your team to tell them what you are looking for. Um, we love buy-in from our team. We love our team to be giving us feedback and to be workshopping ideas. And so at those team training days, we don't make it a lecture-based education like this is. We want their constant feedback. So we have a whiteboard, we are writing things down, and then we take actionable steps based on the feedback that our team have given. Having your team give feedback and then implementing it is critical. So in Dental Hive, we have many team training agendas. And we have, in particular, if you haven't done a one-day team training, a starting point for you. So we have a full day, essentially, agenda that you could follow based on ones that we have done together in the past. It literally has the verbiage for the office manager to read out if that's what's comfortable for them. And then it has like 20-minute sessions at a time, what the plan would be. You could invite a guest speaker in, in terms of filling out content, or you can use our team agendas and do it that way. A lot of dentists are worried about the lost production, quote unquote, that these team days can cause. Of course they can, that's a lot of production. Let me tell you, the next 2 months at your office will be the most profitable that you have had. Taking that day off, off is really investing in your business, because everybody comes back and they are ready to go. But there is definitely, excitement, and go, and then a little bit of a dip. And that's when you need to do your next team training day. Yeah. And you need to do that throughout the year. And maybe it's a half day, maybe it's full day, but you need to implement these training sessions in order to keep the momentum going if you want to get your office productive, running well as a well-oiled machine. It is absolutely worth the investment.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, after these days, our team comes back and they're just like on top of their game. Like they are like giving 120%. It's really motivational. It's really bonding for the whole team just to get us all together outside of the office. Doing education together, our team bonding little strategy breakout sessions. Our last big team meeting day like this, we had a little one in August, but our last big one in February. Like that one was so great just to kind of like share all the love, get everyone on the same page about how we talk to patients, our communication with each other, even. So they're just really great and really helps everyone kind of align with your organization and values.
Yeah. We often will go outside of our office for these. So some free areas that we have found that we can book are dental labs will often have a meeting space that you can use, and they're equipped with it all, like the virtual screens and everything like that. So we'll often go to a dental lab, or like your supplier, like your Henry Schein, your Sinclair, those kinds of people will often have an educational room that you can use. And sometimes you'll get a tour, which is really fun. Like doing a tour of some of our dental labs. Our staff are like blown away, like what's happening behind the scenes at these other companies. So that's a really kind of fun thing to work into the day, as opposed to having it at your office. Sometimes that doesn't set the mindset that this is something I really need to pay attention to. Like this is something unique, and this is something that my doctor is doing for me. I think it's good to have it out and about, to pay for lunch, and to pay their wage that day. Like it is part of their job. I think it's important to pay them. Like this is part of your job. Not seeing patients is not the only part of your job, right? Learning is also a big part of your job. So I have 5 minutes left. So I will talk very briefly about team culture events. We organize a lot of outings for our team. They're not always very expensive things. You don't have to worry about the cost, but getting together outside the clinic, getting our team to know each other, love each other, respect each other, friendships has been such an important part of our office. I don't always go. Like sometimes our reception team get together and go for drinks, and we're happy to give them like a little budget, like let's give you $100 towards going out together or something like that. It contributes to them getting together, but there is a minimum of how many of them get to go, let's say. So they can't just be two of them heading out together, but let's try and get them to really enjoy each other's time. It is really nice for them to get to know each other and really start to understand where each other are coming from. We really find that when we do that, they cover for each other more often.
Yep.
They seem to really understand each other, like, oh, they had a hard weekend, I'm going to step it up today. And it really helps them work together at a different level. It is what I want. I want my team to get along. Like, it's genuine. I want them to have a work family. So, not only do we do full group events, but we also encourage them to hang out with each other separately. We have a couple of questions, so let me just jump in and get that. Do you have a budget so the team members receive the same amount of CE? Okay, yes. So we do have a budget of how much we would pay for a given person per year for education. And then let's say if it's a more expensive course, we do get them to sign a contract that they will be staying with our clinic for 6 months or a year, depending on the cost of that course. So they do sign a contract saying that if they don't, they leave early, that they would repay the cost of that course. So that is something that we plan out as part of their professional development plan. Wages while they're attending CE, yes, if it's CE that we have signed them up for, we pay them for the day. If they want to do stuff outside of work on their own back, that's totally up to them. And yes, we do have agreements in place. I think that is really important, and that's part of the retention piece. If I'm investing in you, I want this to come back into my office for a minimum period of time. So depending on what the course is, we will absolutely do that.
It could be something as small as a letter of commitment, just saying this is how long we expect you to stay with us for. You can add stuff in there like you'll pay for 50% of the course if you leave or 100%, whatever. Can even include staying at their current wage if it's a very, very expensive course that you're doing for a certain period of time. So there are different options that you can look at doing.
So thank you everybody so much for attending us today. We have been recording and this will be posted on YouTube by tomorrow. We will be meeting typically once a month, every Monday at noon EST, just to have this coffee lunch break with you to go through some of the things that have worked very well for making our clinics very successful here in Toronto. All of the resources we talked about today are inside Dental Hive, currently under the office managers section. We are updating the app soon, so it'll be a little bit easier to find things, but all of the content will still stay in there. Thank you so much for your.
Thank you. Happy Monday. Have a great week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.